All right, trade talks between the U.S. and Canada collapsing overnight. A 50% tariff on $20 billion worth of Canadian goods taking effect at midnight. The Trump administration says Canada walked away from a deal that would have cut tariffs on steel, aluminum, autos, and lumber.
Trump's own top CEOs are warning that his tariffs on Canada could end up raising costs and taxing American families.
And they've always had the best deal, and they still would have an even better deal, but they didn't want that.
All right, so here's our Vice President, J.D. Vance. He was out in Ohio, and he's talking about American workers being replaced by labor's overseas watch.
But 200 of America's biggest CEOs are saying the opposite, warning that these tariffs could end up raising taxes on American families. So why are the very people who are supposed to benefit from these tariffs the ones sounding the alarm?
Reluctantly, because we recognize that some of these measures will raise costs and reduce choice for Canadians. Reluctantly, because we recognize that some U.S. companies and some U.S. states are innocent bystanders in a dispute that they did not want.
Here's the setup. Late Friday, U.S.-Canada trade talks broke down. By Saturday, the United States had imposed 50% tariffs on roughly $20 billion worth of Canadian goods, while Canada set September 8 as the date to respond with dollar-for-dollar retaliation.
Our interest is in protecting American workers and protecting American supply chains. We've been offering to bring the Canadians along on that path, really to cut the tariffs on them, on steel, on tariff autos, even lumber, things that are sensitive for them. And they've always had the best deal, and they still would have an even better deal, but they didn't want that.
To be fair, the administration does have a real case. It argues that it offered Canada deep tariff cuts on steel, autos, and lumber, and that Ottawa walked away. But here's what's difficult to square with the claim that Canada got the best deal. It isn't Ottawa calling the agreement bad for Americans. It's Trump's own Business Roundtable. Roughly 200 American CEOs have warned that the new tariffs could raise costs for American families and put additional strain on supply chain. The Business Roundtable represents the chief executives of some of America's largest companies, including Apple, Amazon, Walmart, and J.P. Morgan. In a statement on Saturday, the group urged both governments to return to the negotiating table, warning that the new tariffs and Canada's retaliation could increase costs for American businesses and families while disrupting vital supply chain. And to be fair to these CEOs, they aren't necessarily anti-Trump. They said they appreciate the administration's focus on the barriers facing American exporters. Their objection isn't the goal, it's the 50% tariff as the tool being used to achieve it.
I mean, this is just a mess of America and Donald Trump's own making. I mean, I think what jumped out to me were the tariffs on Canadian lumber, which American home builders are already saying we don't have enough stock and supply, which is only going to send housing prices, which are already unacceptably high, according to polls, even higher.
Over 200 of America's top CEOs are turning against new 50% tariffs on Canadian goods, warning that these trade barriers could raise costs for American families. The Business Roundtable, representing massive companies like Apple, Amazon, Walmart, and J.P. Morgan, is calling on both sides to return to the negotiating table. Welcome back to Joshu Reaction. I am Frank John, bringing you direct facts, truth, and educational news analysis. To all my dedicated viewers across from the USA and Canada, our faith and we are firmly stand that in God we trust. If you want plain, simple, and natural updates on US and Canadian news, hit that subscribe button right now. Let's examine the facts behind this major business reaction. The conflict escalated after trade talks stalled over the weekend, leading to 50% US tariffs taking effect on roughly $20 billion worth of Canadian goods. In response, Canada set September 8th as the deadline for dollar-for-dollar retaliatory measures. While the administration argues Canada walked away from a favorable agreement, America's top business leaders disagree with using massive tariffs. The Business Roundtable explicitly stated that these high duty rates risk disrupting critical cross-border supply chains and increasing price for everyday consumers. The impact is already spreading across key US industries. American home builders warn that 50% tariffs on Canadian lumber will drive up construction costs and push home prices even higher during a national housing strain. Lawmakers from both parties are voicing serious concerns. Republican Senator Susan Collins pointed out that mine farmers and fishermen rely on Canadian equipment parts, while Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer warned about the impact on Michigan's auto industry workers. Trade data highlights just how interconnected both economies really are. Canada supplies 60% of America's crude oil imports, 99% of its natural gas imports, and significantly electricity. At the same time, Canada is the largest customer for 26 US states. Because tariffs operate as taxes on imported goods, major business groups argue that broad economic trade barriers end up shifting financial burdens onto domestic consumers and businesses rather than solving trade disputes. Now, I want to ask you two key questions. Will opposition from major US business leaders force a trade compromise before Canada's September deadline, or should critical materials like lumber and energy be exempt from trade tariffs? Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Thanks for watching Joshu Reaction. I am Frank John, and always I said, in God we trust. God bless Canada, God bless America, and I'll see you on the next factual update. Take care, talk soon. Bye bye.